She was already running when the church bell cracked in half. Moonlight flashed on broken glass and on the blood streaking her palm. Rain fell in thin, slashing lines that washed the blood from Clara's hands but not from her memory. She ran barefoot through the black forest, heart pounding like a drum beneath her soaked dress. Branches clawed at her hair, and the cold bit into her bones. Behind her, voices echoed, sharp laughter mixed with the hiss of something not quite human. She clutched the small glass vial hanging around her neck and whispered to the night, "Don't let me die before I find her." Lightning split the sky, revealing the iron gates of Blackthorn Manor rising ahead like teeth. She slammed both fists against them till her knuckles split. "Lord Draven," she cried, almost choking on her breath. "You did this. You or your monsters. Help me now, or finish what you started." The gates didn't open. She screamed again until her throat burned. 2 guards appeared from the shadows, eyes glowing faint red. They were vampires, his sentinels, and they looked at her as if deciding whether she were meat or message. Draven stepped out of the dark beyond them, cloak trailing across the wet stones. The air itself seemed to quiet. He was taller than she imagined, face too still to be alive. His voice was low and steady. "A little mortal, shouting my name. Either you've lost your mind," he said, "or you've lost something worth more than your life." Clara straightened, trembling but defiant. "They took my sister. They said they served you. If it's true, then you owe me her life." Around them the storm cracked again, throwing red in the sky. His mouth curved just enough to suggest a laugh that never reached his eyes. "Oh," he said softly. "Humans burn fast and forget fast. Why should I care about what my kind do to yours?" "Because you took everything," she said. "And now I have nothing left to lose." For a moment his gaze hovered on her face, on the scars of smoke along her cheek. He turned to his guards. "Bring her inside. If she's lying, throw her off the cliffs by dawn." Inside, the manor smelled of iron and wine. Firelight flickered over the marble floor, where shadowed servants moved too quietly. Before she could speak again, a woman stepped from the staircase, pale, eyes silver like frozen glass. "Another beggar, my lord?" the woman asked. "Or supper?" "Neither," Draven said. "A curiosity." He watched Clara as one might watch a storm from behind glass. "Tell me, little mortal, what do you expect I'll do?" "Find my sister," Clara said, voice shaking but steady. She wore a red ribbon. "Please." He cut her off with a sharp motion. "Your begging offends me." Then, almost lazily, "But your courage interests me." The child's spine straightened under his gaze. "You call it courage," she whispered. "I call it anger." Something flickered in the vampire's eyes, brief, like a memory too old to bear. He leaned closer. "Do you know who took her?" "The one with black eyes," she said quickly. "A woman." Draven's lips curved upward. "Then you've met Celine." His tone soured slightly, like a drop of blood in wine. "She's not mine anymore." "But she once was." Clara stared, confused. "You mean, she used to serve you?" "That and more," he said. "She had a talent for rebellion." The thin smile widened. "What debt do I owe you, child of ashes?" She thought of Maddie's small hands, the way she whispered lullabies when scared. "Find her," she said. "That's all." He paced once, twice, then gestured to a servant. "Feed her. She shakes like something already dying." When the servant stepped forward, Clara refused the plate. "I don't want your food," she said. "Only your word." Draven's eyes darkened. "A command from a human?" He laughed then, the sound dry as stone. "Very well. I will find this sister, if only to see if your fire burns as hot as your tongue. But understand, if you've lied, I'll drain that courage from your veins myself." It wasn't mercy, it was curiosity. Still, she nodded. Good, he said. Go. Rest while you can. Tomorrow you will see what true monsters look like. As she turned, something glimmered on his desk, a small red ribbon, knotted neatly beside an empty glass. Her sister's ribbon. She didn't breathe, didn't move. Draven followed her eyes to it and smiled faintly. Lost things have a way of returning, he said. But whether whole, that's another matter. Thunder crashed again, shaking the glass and the windows. His gaze held hers coldly, as if daring her to demand the truth. The moment stretched until she spoke in a voice raw with hope and fear. Where is she? Draven's answer was a single word, one that burned through her like fire through snow. Alive. He turned away, dismissing her. For now. She stood there with the sound of rain and heartbeats that weren't her own echoing in the hall. The red ribbon lay still under candlelight, and for the first time since the fire, tears cut through the soot on her face. Would you have begged the monster who destroyed your family? Clara woke to candlelight trembling against stone walls. For a moment she thought she was still in the forest, until she saw velvet drapes heavy as night and a crimson carpet running toward twin doors carved with wolves. The events at the gate returned in a rush, the storm, the iron eyes of Lord Draven, the red ribbon. A servant girl appeared carrying a tray of food. She was human, the first living heartbeat Clara had heard in days. Eat while you can, the girl whispered. He loses interest fast, and interest is the only thing that keeps you breathing. Then she slipped away, leaving warmth and fear behind. When Draven entered, the room seemed to tilt slightly. He didn't walk, he glided, every motion deliberate. So the orphan still breathes, he said. Tell me what you guard so tightly around your neck. Clara covered the vial instinctively. It's all I have left of my father. Interesting, he murmured. Glass means little. Contents mean much. She stayed silent. That reluctance, he said slowly, smells like knowledge. You know what it does. I know my father died for it, she answered. Draven's expression sharpened. And you think a scientist's trinket will buy your sister back? You'd do better bargaining with your soul. Clara stepped closer. Then take that instead. Just find her. He studied her for a long time. A soul for a sister. Fair in theory, but ideal in power, not promises. He turned toward the window, moonlight painting his face silver. Celine stole something from me too. Perhaps we have a shared enemy. What do you mean? She betrayed me. Fled with my best soldiers and the knowledge I gave her. If she has your sister, then she plans to use her. Maybe bait, maybe experiment. He looked back at Clara, voice turning cold again. Help me crush her, and you'll have what remains of your sister. Clara's stomach twisted. And if I refuse? You won't, he said. You came here because no human law could help you. You came to the devil for justice. He poured dark wine into a crystal glass, its scent mixed sweet and metallic. You should understand who you've chosen. I drink only truth. He raised the glass to his lips and drank, crimson staining them. If you still wish to walk beside me, speak now. Her legs shook, but she forced words through them. I'll do whatever it takes. Then listen carefully, he said. Celine's coven gathers tomorrow night in the ruins beneath the old railway. You will accompany my scouts. You will do what I command. In return, I'll show you proof of your sister's heart still beating. He stepped closer until his presence pressed against her like frost. One warning, little flame, everything you touch here changes. Including you. She gasped quietly, then nodded. So be it. Draven smiled, almost kind but not quite. Good. Loyal already. He placed a folded handkerchief on the table. Its fabric was stained dark red. When she unfolded it, a familiar scent clung to it, lavender and smoke. Sewn into the edge was another piece of ribbon, matching the one by his glass. "I found this after Celine fled," he said. "Proof she took what she shouldn't." Clara clenched it in her fist. "You swear you'll help me?" "I swear nothing. Promises are for mortals. But I'll let you live long enough to see the end." By dawn she hadn't slept. Through the walls she heard whispers in languages she didn't know. The manor itself felt alive, its corridors shifting like veins under skin. Every tick of some distant clock reminded her she was not among humans anymore. When morning came, though here the sun never touched the windows, Draven met her in the courtyard. His black coat moved like smoke in wind. "Your fear smells stronger than the rain," he said. "I'm not afraid." He almost smiled. "Not yet." They rode in silence, horses pounding over cobblestones toward the city's edge. As they descended into the ruin under the old railway, the air grew warm with a metallic scent. Torches burned blue along the tunnel. Draven leaned close and whispered, "Welcome to my world, Clara. Once you enter, you don't climb back to daylight." Something inside her answered, half defiance, half destiny. "Then I'll drag the daylight here instead." The faintest laugh escaped him. "Careful, girl. The light kills." A figure appeared in the tunnel ahead carrying a small lantern. In its glow was a child's silver locket, Maddie's locket. Clara's breath caught as she reached for it, but the lantern bearer dropped it deliberately into the mud and vanished into the dark. She bent to pick it up and found tiny fingerprints of dried blood on its clasp. When she looked up, Draven was watching her, unreadable. "What did you see?" he asked. "I saw enough to know she's alive," Clara said. He inclined his head. "Then perhaps you'll survive this night as well." Lightning flared above the cracked tunnel roof. Thunder rolled like a heartbeat waking underground. Draven turned, coat whipping in the wind rushing down the passage. "Stay close," he ordered, "and remember, you invited the darkness yourself." She followed him into deeper shadow, clutching the locket and whispering her sister's name. The echo came back faintly, almost replying. "If you saw that ribbon, would you still trust him?" The tunnels beneath the old railway smelled of rust and damp stone, like a tomb that never stopped breathing. Clara kept her lantern close, light trembling in her hands, as Draven strode ahead without fear. The sound of their footsteps echoed, joined by whispers whose source she could not see. From the dripping arches above, water mixed with traces of old blood. Draven halted suddenly. "They're near," he said. His pupils flashed crimson. Celine's nest shifted deeper. "My scouts vanished in this tunnel 2 nights ago." Clara's heart pounded. "Then maybe we should wait till..." He turned on her. "You wanted your sister. Wait long enough and she'll be ashes." She pressed her lips together and followed. The passage opened into a cavern lit by torches wedged into crevices. Shapes moved in the smoky air, half a dozen vampires cloaked in tattered coats. They hissed as Draven entered, and one stepped forward wearing a silver mask. Behind her, Clara spotted something small hanging from a chain above a fire pit, a child's silhouette struggling weakly. "Maddie!" Clara cried, lunging forward. Draven's arm shot out, stopping her short. "Not yet," he whispered. "That's not her." When the masked vampire turned, Clara saw Draven's name carved into her wrist, a brand. The woman yanked off the mask, revealing Celine's sharp, beautiful face. "So the mighty lord comes crawling into my den. What brings you here? Guilt or pride?" Draven's voice was steady. "Neither. You have something of mine." Celine smirked. "I took everything of yours long ago. Your soldiers, your secrets, your bed. Now maybe your new pet." Her eyes slid toward Clara. Pretty, in a wounded sort of way. "Humans burn bright, don't they?" Clara stepped closer. Where's my sister? Celine tilted her head. Alive, for now. Useful creatures make poor corpses. Draven's tone cut through the air. Give her back. Why would I? Celine asked. You ran from the world, Draven. Hid on your cliff and pretended not to remember you once wanted to end this hunger. Her father almost succeeded where you failed. His serum nearly freed us. But you couldn't allow it then, so you murdered him instead. Clara froze, staring up at Draven. Is that true? His jaw tightened. Your father's work would have destroyed us all. You destroyed my family. Her voice cracked. Celine laughed. You see? The beast admits it. Yet the remedy lies with you, child. You carry the final ingredient he never found, his own bloodline. Clara stepped back. What are you talking about? Look at him, Celine said. His face tells you. Blood calls to blood. For a heartbeat, Clara glimpsed something unreadable in Draven's stare, recognition, maybe horror. He drew his blade, voice suddenly rough. Enough lies. Celine's smile sharpened. Then kill me, my lord. Do it before she learns what you truly are. The guards moved first, the cavern exploded into chaos. Firelight scattered over crashing bodies as Draven's sword slashed the air, cutting through shadows and shrieks. Clara ducked behind crates, searching for the small bound figure she hoped was Maddie. But when she reached it, she found only cloth wrapped around rocks, made to look like a child. She turned just in time to see Celine strike Draven across the chest with claws shining like silver knives. He stumbled but didn't fall. Run, he snapped at Clara. Now. Instead she grabbed a fallen dagger and hurled it. The blade caught Celine's shoulder. In the blink that followed, Draven reached her and drove his own sword through her heart. She screamed once, then dissolved into dust scattering into the fire. The other vampires vanished into cracks in the walls. Silence returned, heavy as smoke. Draven wiped his blade, breathing harder than before, a rare sight in something that no longer lived. She was wrong, he said. I didn't order your parents' deaths. But she took orders from someone who did. Clara's voice trembled. Then who? He looked at her, eyes no longer cold but hollow. A council of our kind. I fought them once, to stop the hunger from devouring the world. They still think me weak for it. He turned to the ashes. Your father worked for them once, before he learned what they were. When he tried to stop them, they sent Celine. The words blurred in Clara's head. So I lost them because you couldn't kill your enemies fast enough? Draven didn't answer. He knelt, reached into the ashes, and pulled out the red ribbon, untouched by flame. This was hers. She's not here, but that means Celine moved her elsewhere. Likely to the manor at the bay. Clara took the ribbon, fist closing over it. Then we go. You don't command me, he said, not even looking at her. I do now, she shot back. You want those traitors dead, and I want my sister alive. We need each other. For the first time since the night he found her at his gates, Draven smiled, not cruelly, but almost proud. You've already begun to sound like them. They rode back toward the surface as dawn tinted the edges of the clouds. Clara's mind turned over everything she'd heard, truth blurred with lies, mercy with horror. She couldn't decide which frightened her more, the monsters in the dark or what she might become beside them. At the tunnel mouth, he paused. Rest today, he said. Tomorrow we move for the bay. You'll see what loyalty costs. She glanced once more at the ribbon, then at him. You could have killed her and ended this long ago, she said. I could have, he answered. But then who would remember what I lost? She didn't understand fully, yet the look in his eyes chilled her more than the morning wind. He turned away, disappearing into shadow. Behind them, from deep within the tunnels, came a faint cry, thin but unmistakable, a child's voice yelling her name. Clara spun toward it, but the sound faded into the dripping walls. "Would you join the one you once swore to kill?" A storm rolled back in from the bay that evening, black clouds swallowing the moon as if the night itself were gathering courage. Blackthorn Manor groaned in the wind. Inside, Clara paced the grand hall, unable to shake the echo of that faint cry. Her sister's voice had sounded so close, so real. She stopped before the massive portrait above the staircase, graven in another century, hand on the shoulder of a dark-haired woman whose eyes were almost human. The plaque beneath read Isolde. The sight froze her. The woman had her mother's face, so nearly identical that her knees weakened. "Looking for ghosts?" The voice came from behind. Draven descended the stairs slowly, every step measured. "Who is she?" Clara asked without turning. "Someone I failed," he said. "The reason I stopped pretending I deserved anything pure. You let Celine live because of her, didn't you?" He said nothing. Only the wind replied, rattling the stained glass windows like trapped souls. "Your silence tells me enough," Clara said. "You don't fight for me. You fight to fix your past." He moved closer until his reflection stood beside hers in the glass. "Everything repeats, Clara. Love. Betrayal. Even courage. The question is whether you choose which side of it you stand on." She faced him. "I don't have time for riddles. Maddie's still out there. And the council that took her," he said, "will soon be here. My spies report they've set eyes on this house. Celine's death has stirred them." He opened a locked cabinet and drew out 2 slender blades of blackened steel. "When they come, they won't spare anyone. Human or vampire." She stared at the weapons. "Then teach me." He raised an eyebrow. "To kill vampires?" "To survive them," she said. He watched her a long moment, then tossed one blade to her. Its weight nearly threw her off balance. "Hold it like truth, tight, but not fearful. Fear makes it heavy." He stepped behind her, adjusting her grip, his hands cold against hers. "Every strike you choose will define you. Remember that." Her pulse hammered. Funny lesson from someone who doesn't bleed. His voice was low at her ear. "Oh, I bleed. I just never stop." For hours they trained in the echoing hall, the sound of steel cutting air rhythmic as a heartbeat. She stumbled, rose again, struck harder. Draven corrected every flaw, never raising his voice, but his eyes burned brighter each time their blades met. When she finally collapsed against a column, sweat dripping from her hair, he crouched beside her. "Better," he said. "Almost living." She glared at him. "Almost living isn't enough." He leaned against the wall opposite, expression unreadable. "Not for you. Perhaps that's what will save you." Before she could reply, the manor doors burst open, a servant rushed in, gasping. "My lord, they're here." Draven's posture changed in an instant. "How many?" "Dozens. The council's hunters." Lightning flashed through the windows. "Get her below," he ordered. "No," Clara said, rising unsteadily. "If they have Maddie, I'm not hiding." He turned toward her slowly. "If you fight, you kill. Can you bear that?" "She's my sister." That was her answer, and it was enough. Moments later, the manor erupted into battle. Windows shattered, and pale figures poured in with weapons shining like moonlight. Draven moved through them like a storm given shape, every motion lit by the thunder above. Clara held her blade tight, cutting at shadows that lunged too close. She saw one hunter raise a crossbow aimed at Draven's back. Without thinking, she threw her dagger. It struck the man's shoulder. He fell, disarmed. For a heartbeat, Draven turned, surprise flickering across his face. "You saved my life," he said flatly. "Don't get used to it," she answered. They fought back to back until the hull was slick with blood, some dark, some bright. When the last hunter fell, silence burned hotter than the fight itself. Draven looked around at the ruin. "They'll come again, and stronger. We need to move before sunrise." Clara's voice was hoarse. "Move where?" "The Bay Manor Celine mentioned," he said. "Your sister is almost certainly there. The council keeps their experiments near the water. They think it hides the smell of death." She staggered forward, shoulder bleeding where a blade had grazed her. "Then what are we waiting for?" He extended a hand, but she ignored it. "I can walk." "I know," he said softly. "You remind me of someone who never let me help her either." They left the burning manor behind. Dawn edged over the cliffs as waves broke below, red from reflected fire. On the cliff path, he stopped suddenly and stared at her. "You fight like a creature of the dark now," he said. "Maybe I am," she whispered. He shook his head. "Don't wish for that. There's no peace here." Before she could answer, a scream rolled up from the shore, high, young, unmistakable. "Maddie!" Clara ran, slipping on wet stones, until she reached the edge overlooking the bay. There, bound to a post in the surf, was her sister. Around her stood robed figures, and at their center, someone raising a knife of pure silver. Draven grabbed Clara's arm before she leapt. "That's not just a ritual, it's the cure. They'll end us all if they finish it." "I don't care," she shouted. "She's my sister." He looked at her a moment longer and then released her. "Then run. And make sure I have something left to protect." She bolted down the slope, waves crashing, cloak flying behind her. Above, thunder split again, tearing open the clouds. "Would you chase that carriage or run from the night itself?" The surf slapped against the rocks like 1,000 angry hands. Clara hit the sand running, blade glinting in flashes of lightning. She screamed her sister's name, voice tearing through the howl of the storm. Maddie's head lifted weakly, her wrists were tied to the post, her eyes glassy and frightened. Around her, the council's followers turned. Some were human priests in fragile armor, others vampires half-drunk with hunger, all united by fanatic calm. The tallest, a man in silver robes, raised the ritual knife again. His voice rose above the thunder, blood for freedom. Darkness for dawn. Clara didn't wait. She plunged forward, slicing an attacker's thigh, grabbing Maddie's ropes to cut them loose. The knife scraped her wrist, blood mixed with salt water. "Hold on," she shouted. "I'm here." The priest lunged, but before he could strike, Draven appeared between waves and shadows like the sea itself had formed him. His hands caught the knife midair, he twisted, sending the man sprawling. One look silenced the rest. "You would call this freedom?" he said. "Slavery under another name." The priest laughed, blood dribbling down his chin. "You have no throne anymore." Draven raised his blade once and ended him. No ceremony, no words. Just the sound of steel, swift and final. The others scattered, terror shredding their courage. Maddie collapsed into the surf, coughing. Clara dragged her to the rocks, cutting the last rope. "It's me," she whispered. "It's over." But it wasn't. Maddie's lips were blue, her pulse uneven. Her eyes flicked between human blue and unnatural gold. The bite mark on her neck was old yet glowing faintly, light pulsing beneath the skin. "What did they do to her?" Clara cried. Draven knelt beside them, soaked, both fury and guilt etched into his face. "They wanted to perfect your father's serum, half vampire, half human. She's their experiment now." No, Clara's voice cracked. "Fix her. It may already be too late. If I draw the infection out, I kill her. If I don't, she'll die anyway? He met her eyes. Or change forever. Clara looked from her sister's trembling lips to the vial still hanging around her own neck. It had survived everything but felt almost too warm, as if alive. My father made this for hope, she said, whispering more to herself than him. Then let it be hope now. Before Draven could stop her, she uncorked the vial and tilted it into Maddie's mouth. The girl gasped once. The storm's roar seemed to dull for an instant, then Maddie arched and screamed, light bursting from her chest like shattered moonlight. Draven grabbed Clara and dragged her backward. Foolish girl, that wasn't a cure, it was unfinished. The glow faded. Maddie collapsed again, breathing shallowly. Her skin had gone paler, pupils dilated. When she opened her eyes, they glowed faint gold even in the rain. Clara, she whispered. Clara clutched her sister tight. It's me. I've got you. Draven stood above them, face unreadable. She may never be fully human again. She's alive. That's enough. He walked a few paces up the rocks, watching the storm subside. Then quietly, the council will send more. They'll want her blood, your father's legacy. She is proof that the divide between our kinds can be crossed. Clara looked up, jaw set. Then we protect her. His tone stayed calm. We? You trust me still? She met his gaze evenly. You saved her life when you didn't need to. That's enough for now. But if you ever hurt her, I'll find a way to end you. For the first time in 2 centuries, the cruel lord smiled without cruelty. Good. Fear keeps me alive, but defiance keeps me interested. They left the shore together, Maddie leaning on Clara's arm, Dawn only a gray smear behind clouds. As they climbed the stone path, Draven said quietly, the price of what you did tonight will come soon. That light inside her, inside you now, won't go unnoticed. What do you mean? Clara asked. He looked at her as another thunderclap rolled. When her blood changed, some of it mingled with yours. The bond between sisters runs deeper than mortal veins. You shared her fate. She touched her wrist, finding a thin mark glowing faintly beneath the skin, like a pulse touched by moonfire. Will I turn? Perhaps neither of you will, he said. Or perhaps you'll become something new. She felt the weight of the night pressing down and the far-off cries of gulls beginning to announce morning. Then what do we do now? Draven looked toward the ruined manor on the cliffs. We hide, until that light chooses what it wants to be. As they reached the path's end, Maddie stumbled and whispered, I can hear them. What? The others. Their voices in my head. They're coming. Draven's gaze darkened again, blood-red eyes flicking toward the horizon where first sunlight tried to break through the clouds. Then the war you wanted, child, has finally found you. Would you save your sister if it meant cursing her forever? For 3 days they hid inside the drowned caverns beneath the manor, the only place sunlight never touched. The sea rolled against stone just beyond the tunnel mouth, each wave an echo of the heartbeat Clara no longer trusted. Maddie slept fitfully, her skin too cold, her veins gleaming faintly with that strange gold light. Clara barely slept. She listened to Draven moving in the dark above them, pacing like a tiger that had forgotten what rest was. When she finally stood to face him, her voice was hoarse. She whispers in her sleep. Names I don't recognize. You said the serum wasn't complete. Tell me what's happening. He stopped pacing. The council wanted a hybrid. They achieved it. Her blood is not purely cursed, not purely human. It links what should never meet. Can it kill her? If left alone, yes. If guided, perhaps not. She stepped closer, trembling. Then guide her. You owe me that. I owe you nothing, he said, but quieter than before. The silence between them filled with rushing water and faint breathing. Finally, he looked up. You should have fled when you had the chance. Instead, you lingered in my ruin. Clara's eyes flashed. Because the only monsters worse than you are the ones coming for her. He almost smiled. Then you've begun to understand. He turned toward the tunnels. The hunters will search every mile of this coast before nightfall. We can't hide forever. Where do we go? To the council's heart. If they fall, the others scatter. It sits under the old cathedral in the city. She stared at him. You want to walk into the same place that tried to erase you? I don't want to, he said. I will. When they emerged that dusk, the world had turned colorless in fog. The ruins of Blackthorn smoked behind them, the air carried the copper scent of old blood. Maddie leaned against Clara, pale but awake. I can see farther, she whispered. Even in the dark. It's beautiful and terrible. Clara squeezed her hand. You'll get used to terrible. They reached the city after midnight. The cathedral rose from the mist, its bells long broken, its windows glowing faint red from candles within. Around the base were carvings of angels, their faces worn to nothing. Draven pushed the great doors open, wood groaning, and they stepped into silence. Candles flickered across hundreds of pews filled with shapes that at first seemed statues. Then one moved. Welcome home, Lord Draven, a voice said. From the altar stood a man with silver eyes. You were the first to teach us discipline. Now you come to undo it? Draven's voice echoed. You corrupted everything I built. You turned hunger into religion. You call it corruption, we call it order. He looked toward Clara and Maddie. Your pet smells sweet. The little one shines. Our alchemists will thank you for returning them. Clara stepped forward, trembling blade in hand. No one's taking her again. The man laughed softly. You think love will protect you? Love is our oldest illusion. You sound like him, she said, flicking her eyes at Draven. I learned it from him, the man replied. He was our lord once, before he sold mercy to the light. Draven moved faster than breath. He crossed the sanctuary and slammed the man against a column, fangs bared. I built this council to preserve survival, not sanctify slaughter. But slaughter preserved us, the man gasped. He nodded toward Maddie. Look at her. That is balance. Human and monster in one. Maddie clutched her head, moaning. Light flickered from her skin, casting ripples along the walls. Her eyes glowed gold, the color deepening. Stop it! Clara shouted. She's calling to us, the man said, almost joyous. She's our new dawn. Then the dawn ends now, Draven growled. He drove his blade through the man's chest. The body convulsed and fell. All around, the other figures stirred, hundreds of them waking from false prayer. Run! Draven shouted. They fled down the side corridor, chased by screams. Fire spread through spilled candles, the cathedral became a furnace. Maddie stumbled, glowing brighter as smoke thickened. Every step left footprints of gold ash. At the far end, sunlight broke through a cracked dome far above. Clara dragged Maddie into its path without thinking. The light struck them both. Draven shouted, no, but it was too late. The glow from Maddie flared, merged with sunlight, and then quieted. She looked up, unburned. The mark on her neck faded. Clara felt heat surge across her own chest, then vanish. When the brightness dimmed, the horde behind them lay still, burned to dust as if turned to statues mid-breath. Only Draven and the sisters remained. The air was thick with silence, smoke curling toward the open roof. He stared at them, disbelief breaking his composure. You carry the cure. Not just for vampires, for the curse itself. Clara held her sister, shaking. Then it's over? No, he said quietly. Power never ends. It only changes hands. Outside, the sun climbed fully, the first he had seen in centuries. He didn't step into it, he only watched. Clara turned toward him. You could come with us. Try to live differently. He met her gaze. I don't belong to daylight. Then, softer, but she does. As they walked from the ruins, the wind carried his voice low but clear. If the day ever asks who saved it, tell them it was a monster who finally got tired of the dark. Would you forgive a monster to end a curse? Smoke curled over what remained of the cathedral, twisting upward until the wind shredded it into the pale sky. The scent of ash clung to Clara's clothes, but the light didn't burn her skin. Maddie walked a few steps ahead down the broken road, barefoot, staring curiously at a world that looked both new and familiar. The gold shimmer beneath her skin had faded, leaving faint veins of light that flickered when she breathed. Draven followed them from a distance. He kept to the shade of shattered walls, every motion cautious. The sunlight peeled against him, not killing, but warning. Do you feel that? He asked quietly. Clara turned. What? The silence. No heartbeats except yours and hers. He was right. The whole corridor lay deserted. A city that had once throbbed with movement now felt hollow, drained. The council's network, vampires, feeders, guards, had burned with the cathedral. For the first time in memory, Draven had no followers, no throne, no coven. Maddie reached up toward the light filtering through dust. It doesn't hurt anymore, she said. It feels like music. Draven watched her, expression unreadable. You've become something they feared. Maybe something the world needs. Clara moved between them. She's still my sister. She's a child, not some symbol. Every miracle becomes a symbol, he said. I'm done with miracles that cost blood. He inclined his head slightly, voice low. Then don't waste the one that lived. They walked until the cathedral was a silhouette behind them. A ruined bridge stretched ahead, half collapsed into the river. Draven stopped at its edge, looking toward the faint shimmer of the sun. This is where we part, he said. Clara's muscles tightened. You can't vanish now. The rest of your kind will come back, or new ones will rise. Someone has to stop them. He smiled faintly. I'm not vanishing. I'm atoning. There's an old house beyond the river, deep beneath its cellars. I'll stay there until the hunger fades where I do. She hesitated. And if it doesn't fade? Then I'll let the sun decide. She moved closer. You could change. You saw what she did. You felt it. For a moment, he admitted. Then the darkness reminded me I belonged to it. Maddie tugged at Clara's sleeve. Let him go, she whispered. He gave back what he took. Clara met Draven's gaze one last time. You saved her even when there wasn't anything left for you. If that's not redemption. He shook his head gently. Redemption is for those who survive themselves. He turned, taking one step into weak sunlight. His skin darkened around the edges, smoke rising faintly. He didn't flinch. Instead, he looked back. Keep her near water. It slows the fire in her blood. And if you hear thunder with no storm, leave the city, it means others are coming. The words hung in the air between them, more farewell than warning. Then he walked south, into brightness so white it erased his shadow. Maddie pressed her glowing hand to her heart. Is he gone? Clara stared at the empty road. Maybe he finally found morning. They followed the riverbank until the city disappeared, settling in a small fishing town where people didn't ask questions. Months passed. Maddie grew stronger, learning to hide the shimmer beneath her skin. Some nights she woke crying from dreams she couldn't name, and Clara held her until dawn, whispering stories about a brave man who forgot he was a monster. But one morning, when they opened the door, they found a raven perched on the railing. Its wings were scorched, yet alive, and in its beak hung a single drop of red glass crystal, the same shape as their father's vial. It glowed once, pulsing like a heartbeat, and then crumbled into dust that shimmered away on the wind. Maddie looked up at her sister. "He's watching, isn't he?" Clara nodded slowly. Maybe from somewhere between light and dark. And for the first time since the fire that stole their parents, she let herself breathe without fear. On the horizon, dawn spread over the water, vivid and clean. The world felt unsettled but possible, scarred yet alive. Sometimes, Clara thought, monsters are simply those who remember love too long. And somewhere far beyond the waves, smoke curled once more into sunlight. Was it love or fate?